Hey guys, what's going on? Today I've got a pretty cool build for you. We're going to take some 26 gauge Canthal, we're going to twist it up, and then we're going to wrap those in parallel. So we're going to do 2 parallel twisted coils. Right here I've got 3 pieces of Canthal that I've already straightened. I've got 1 more to do. We're going to need 4 pieces of it. And the Canthal that I'm using is this right here, 26 gauge. And I know a lot of you probably already know this process right here, but all I'm doing is straightening my Canthal, and I just grab it with a pair of needle nose pliers on one end, and then pull it tight, and then hit it with the drill really quick. Just like that. Now I want to take all 4 pieces that I have, and these pieces are roughly, I would say probably close to 2 feet in length each. And I'm just going to straighten up my ends and pull these out. And what I'm doing here is I'm just going to cut these off to where they're all straight, nice and even. Once we have our Canthal nice and straight, take 2 strands, and all I'm going to do here is wrap one around the other. And I just do that just to give the drill something to grab a hold of. All I did was twist the 2 ends together and then fold them over. I'm going to place these in my drill chuck, give it a good tighten. Then on the opposite end, I'm going to grab a hold of the 2 strands with my needle nose pliers. You want to hold these nice and stiff to where the 2 wires are perfectly parallel to each other. And then just start out kind of slow. Go ahead and speed it up. Let's take it a little faster. And once you get it to a certain point, you'll feel it starting to pull back towards the drill. That's good enough for this particular build. Now all I'm going to do is take my snips here and cut off that excess on the end. And then same thing down here on this end. And hang on to these when you clip them, because the wire will go flying across the room. Here's our first one. So I'm going to put this one off to the side, and I'm going to twist the other 2, and then I'll show you the next step of the process. Now here we go. We have 2 completed twisted 26 gauge wires, and this is a total of 4 strands, so 2 strands in each wire. So we're looking for twists roughly about like that, but it doesn't really make a difference, I don't think. I mean, you can twist this as tight or as loose as you want. Now the next step of this process, I'm going to take my 2 strands of twisted 26 gauge, and I'm just going to fold it in on itself. So I'm going to grab the end of the 2 wires, and then all I'm going to do is compress this down as much as I can by hand. And then once you get it down roughly about like that, then I just take these needle nose pliers and I gently squeeze the 2 wires together. So that's what we're looking for. I'm going to be wrapping this around a 3/32 screwdriver. I want to take the 2 flat ends and I want to hold these wires perfectly parallel to each other, side by side here. Then I'm going to lay it across my screwdriver. And I've got my finger, my index fingers on the bottom side, and my thumb is on the top. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm going to hold that nice and firm. And I'm just going to bend this around, making sure that my 2 wires stay together. And I want to get these wraps as close as I can. So I think I'm going to go with 5 wraps on this. And then all I'm doing here is I'm just kind of straightening everything up. Get the coils as even as I possibly can. So that's what our first coil looks like so far. I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to do the same thing, and then we'll come back and install them. Now for these coils, this 26 gauge is kind of thick, so you want to make sure that your screws are lifted almost out to the point where they're falling out. This opposite end over here, you may need to smash it down just a little bit more, because like I say, it's a very tight fit. I'm going to have to grab a hold of this and try to help it through. Just give it some good force and pull on it. And you could use twisted 28 gauge, which would be a lot easier in this particular RDA. We want to get our coil fairly close to the post, and there's a reason for that. I'm going to pull out on this coil as I go back and go to shape it and straighten it up and all that kind of stuff. What I'll end up doing, you'll see in a little bit, is I'm going to pull back on it to straighten it out. So we want it fairly close. I'm going to get these good and tight. I don't have to worry about breaking that wire, because 26 gauge, when it's twisted up together like this, it's nice and tight. I'm just going to push my coil over as much as I can and then pull out on it. So I've just got my screwdriver like this, and I'm pushing back that direction while pulling back this way on the mod. That's going to help straighten it out a little bit. We'll work on it some more as we go. Now I'm going to clip these leads off. And to be honest with you, 28 gauge would have been better. Would have been easier to work with in this particular RDA. So here's what we have so far in our first coil. It looks kind of janky at the moment, but we're going to fix it. Now here's our second one. Pop it on our screwdriver. And I'm going to go ahead and install this one, and then we'll come back. Okay, so here they both are installed. And that's what they look like so far. Now it's time to pulse them and get them heated up. But the very first thing I want to do really quick, pop this off here and check my ohms. Always, always, always make sure when you're doing builds, I don't care if you're an experienced builder or not, make sure that you check your ohms before you ever press the fire button. 0.12. So this is a seriously low build, you guys. Be very careful when you're doing builds like this. Make sure you always use Sony VTC4s or 5s or Samsung 25R or the LG HE2. So we want to just pulse these, because being parallel and twisted and all that stuff, these coils are going to want to disfigure. It's going to require some straightening and all that stuff. And we're going to want to do some shaping on these. Strum the coils a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these cool down, then we'll come back and we're going to wick them up. I'm just going to cut me up a couple of strips here, this organic Japanese cotton, about roughly like that. Then pull off this outer layer. I just don't like it. Now we're just going to take this piece and twist one end of it into a point. So now that I have one end of it pulled through, I'm going to twist this just a little bit, pull it on through, and pull it back. So we can make sure it's not too tight, not too loose. I'm going to cut this off just a little bit longer than the outer edge of the RDA. Because this is a wider coil, I want to be able to have some of this cotton left so I can tuck it underneath. And all I'm going to do with this is the typical way that I wick my coils. I fold it under, tuck it under itself, then stick it under the coil, then push back. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Fold it around, then tuck it under the coil, and then push the whole thing back. And then all I'm going to do is look in there, try and work it around a little bit until I get it like that right there. So that's not too bad. Now I'm going to wick the other side, then we'll put some e-juice on it. We're going to vape it and talk about it. There's the final build. We're going to vape some A10 Vapes Turbulence. This is a peach tobacco. So I'm just going to put some of this right on the top of the coils, and I'm going to pulse the button. And that just sucks that juice right into the coils. And I just continue this process until the cotton is nice and saturated. I can tell you right now, this dual twisted parallel coil is going to be extremely angry. I'm just barely hitting the fire button, man. This thing's wanting to go. Here's the test right here. Now let's back out of here and give this thing a vape and see what we got. The flavor is absolutely fantastic. It really makes the juice pop. You talk about an amazing vape, this one's an awesome one, guys. So that's what I got for you. Till next time, take care and happy vaping.